For those of you that don't know, I'm Maggie, and today I wanted to take some time to catch you up on where I stand with my wedding planning process. In February of 2020, I am about six and a half months into my entire engagement. In total, our engagement's going to end up lasting 11 months, so at this point, most everything is planned. The only things that we have left are the little details to just tie everything up in a pretty little bow. And I filmed some other videos, as you know. So the first one was filmed right after we got engaged, right after we booked a venue, and that was a whole process in and of itself. So I highly encourage you to go watch that video if you are in the very beginning stages of your engagement, because those were lessons that I learned specifically from booking venues and all the things you need to know. Since that's where about 40 to 50% of your budget should be allocated, that's something that matters a ton, which is why it has its own video. And then later on, I took you through a Registry event that we did at Crate & Barrel, which was a ton of fun. I highly recommend if you have a Crate & Barrel near you. But this time, I just wanted to do a casual video where I sat down and had a conversation with you about the lessons that I've learned so far. So this video is really all about things I wish I would have known at the beginning stages of wedding planning. So the first thing that I want to chat with you about is photography. I found most of my vendors on theknot.com. It's so easy to search by category, and then you can also further filter by price range, by distance from your actual venue. I like to look them up on Instagram and kind of see what other people are tagging them in, what their wedding pictures looked like. And when Brian and I made a list of things that were really important to us, the very top of my list listed photography, because of course you're going to have your memories from this day, but as everybody says, it ends up being a whirlwind of a day. Again, haven't experienced that yet, but one thing I know is that pictures do endure, and so I really wanted a good photographer. I actually inquired with a couple of them, and the one that I ended up booking was definitely like middle of the road price-wise, but be sure that you're reading your photography contract. Just for perspective, I got one quote that was $5,000 just for 6 hours of wedding day coverage. So that's just pictures. It did include 2 photographers, but $5,000 was the base package. Where in contrast with my photographer, I'm paying about $3,200, and that comes with a second shooter the day of the wedding, that comes with an engagement session, and that comes with 6 to 8 hours of wedding coverage, whatever your preference is. So be sure that you're understanding what you're getting for your prices. Now, I highly recommend doing engagement photos. A lot of times photographers are going to ask you, would you prefer to have a bridal session or engagement photos? To be quite frank, you can get those bridal portraits, the same thing you would get at a bridal session, the day of your wedding. I don't want just one huge picture of me in my wedding dress in my house one day. I would really like Brian to be in it, so I opted not to do bridal portraits, and we did an engagement session, which is one thing. We actually ordered a chapbook that has all of our favorite engagement photos. So you actually get to choose the layout of the pages. You can make it little grids. And our engagement pictures turned out so good, exactly the way that we wanted. I highly recommend engagement photos and reading those photography contracts to truly get an understanding of everything you're getting for the price. Next, I want to move on to Postable. And you're like, what is Postable? I've never heard of this before. This is a way for you to electronically gather people's addresses and then keep them all in one place. It's really neat. You go onto their website, you create an account, and then you can alter the form that you want to send out to people. So do you want it to collect their first name, their last name, their title, their formal names? You have complete autonomy to customize the form in the way that you wish. Once you get that all customized, all you do is email or text that link that's customized to you in your address book out to the people that you want to invite to your wedding. Now, this was the way that we gathered over 200 people's contact information, and it was pretty seamless with the exception of the older crowd in my family. So keep that in mind. Older people might not know how to work it. They might not understand the electronic version of the form. For them, it was a little bit confusing, and in those cases, I recommend maybe just have your parents reach out to them and gather that information. But know that on the whole, at least for my friends, the people that I work with, it was seamless and they loved it. And then when you go to use different websites that may pre-address your wedding invites for you, that's just an easy thing to upload and go. It's just so handy. So I cannot recommend Postable enough, which leads me to save the dates. Save the dates, in case you weren't aware, those have not been around forever. That is definitely something that is a recent fad. It's something that's definitely not completely necessary for your wedding, especially if you're not having a destination wedding where you have to book like almost a year in advance. While we're not having a destination wedding per se, 90% of the people that are part of our wedding party or who are coming to the wedding are from out of city or out of state. We just have a lot of people coming from all over. So we knew that we wanted to send a save the date. I didn't want to spend an additional $500 to $600 once you factor in the invitations themselves and the postage to tell people our date and then send a follow-up invitation. To me, it just didn't seem worth the money. So I went and created my own digital save the dates. And I had never seen this done before, so I was a little bit worried about it, but honestly, it has been super well received. I uploaded one of our engagement photos, I put save the date on it, and then I included a bunch of necessary details about our wedding, like the date, the location, our wedding website, and then on the very bottom of the email, under the actual image that was the save the date, I included quick links, one to our wedding website, one to the hotel accommodations, and one to add a quick calendar invite to their existing Google Calendar for future reference. We got word back that it was super helpful. People loved that they didn't have to look at the physical save the date and type in the URL right on the screen. And because of that, we've actually gotten a lot of wedding presents already because people went to our wedding website and saw that our registry was attached to it. So be forewarned, people will be a bit proactive if you do take this approach, but the electronic save the date was great and it cost us $0. Don't feel like you have to follow the mold, do something different, do something that's very you, and it'll pay off. People were really complimentary of that process. Sticking along those same lines, a wedding website. I was the person, I get so annoyed when people share their wedding websites on Facebook. I just get annoyed. I don't know why. I just think that it's weird. If not everybody is invited to your wedding, don't broadcast your wedding website for everybody to see. It is just so strange to me. And because of this weird, stupid gripe that I have with wedding websites that I understand is a personal issue, I was always like, nope, I'm not having one. I just think they're unnecessary. They tell all this weird information about how you met, and all the important people in your life should know that. Anyway, I take all of it back because having a wedding website is extremely convenient, especially if you have a hotel room block you're trying to fill up, especially if people are from out of town. It's just a really easy way for them to see things on a map. It's a place to house your registry. It's a place for them to see photos. I did take out the entire section on the website about our story. I didn't upload pictures of our individual people in our wedding party or put a little bio about how I know them. Like, they know how we know each other. Ours is a very bare bones website, but it is extremely useful. And if you're using the Knot already for most of your planning and your budgeting and securing some of your vendors and things like that, you can get a free website through the Knot. So again, that didn't cost us anything either, and it's just a handy tool. And speaking of the Knot, I have found that the Knot's checklist has been extremely helpful. It lists out every teeny tiny detail that you could ever think of, and then an estimated date for you to complete those things so that your process overall isn't super overwhelming. There are some things that I'm like, oh no, that's way too early, and so I've changed the date on it. And that's what's nice about it, is that you can completely customize it. So for us, we're not having videography, so I deleted all of those to-dos from my checklist. And it has really done a good job of keeping us on track and making sure that we're not forgetting the little things like booking our hotel room the night of the wedding, or making sure that we have a transportation plan. That checklist is extremely helpful. So if you're using the Knot or some other wedding planning website like that, definitely utilize the checklist, because if you're not in the industry, you definitely don't know all of the things that you need to do ahead of time. The big kahuna here is go ahead and at the very beginning of your wedding planning process, knock out all of the huge vendors first. And I touch a little bit on this in that one big video that I filmed right after I got engaged and started the planning process. But I really want to drive this home to you that at that time, I had just secured the big vendors. Like, I had gotten my photographer and I had gotten the venue, but we didn't solidify all the little details with it. And it got really overwhelming really fast, because I was like, shoot, we booked this so long ago, I forgot about all of our options. And so I had to go back and do a bunch of research and look things up and reference contracts. And so for instance, we went and had our cake tasting on December the 14th, and I did not send them the package details for the cake that we actually wanted until last weekend. So that was something that I could have done the day of our tasting, because we walked out of that place knowing exactly what we wanted. So don't push things off. Once you have an answer, go ahead and send it off. Get it off of your plate, get it out of your mind, get it off of your checklist. Do it all at once so that it evens things out along the way. Registry tips. Oh my gosh. I cannot impart on you enough to register for more than you think you need. Brian and I both have lived on our own for a while, so we have a lot of the things that we need. We just were not expecting to get more than one present from one single person. And it turns out that when people want to buy you a present, they're buying you like 4 and 5 things. For instance, we've received presents from 3 different people and we have 11 things checked off of our registry. So register for way more than the number of guests that you're inviting to your wedding. I cannot stress that enough. Different tools that are helpful. We've only registered on Crate & Barrel and Amazon. And my biggest tip for you is to pick fewer retailers to register at, because it's just way easier to keep track of everything and make a cohesive registry to where you're not duplicative in many places if you narrow it down to just a few stores that you really know and trust. Crate & Barrel is a store that we absolutely adore. Most of Brian's furniture is from there. They have high quality items at wonderful prices. So we were like, let's go all in. So we did all of our kitchen and homewares and everything from Crate & Barrel. And then I supplemented with things from Amazon because that's super convenient for people that live far away. It's really quick shipping in case they forget to buy a gift for whatever reason, and then they can get it really fast if that's what they want to do. We just thought that would be really convenient for people. So, okay, another thing, have your shoes before your first dress fitting. I just went to my very first fitting. It was so much fun. It was a dream. I loved putting the dress on because it's sinking in that I only get to wear that thing once, and I wish I could definitely wear it more than once. But an hour before the dress fitting, I realized I didn't have shoes to wear and I was going to actually make sure that it fit. So definitely prepare to have your shoes ahead of time. And I did not buy expensive shoes. I think mine were $55. They're not going to be seen. Don't go spend like $200 on wedding shoes if you're wearing a long dress, because truth be told, it really doesn't matter at the end of the day unless you want to just take pictures with them, but leave them out of pictures if they're not cute shoes. I don't know. Another thing is make sure that they're comfortable. I tried on like 4 or 5 different pair of shoes to make sure that I had like really good arch support for my high arches and made sure that there was actual padding. I have to wear a heel because Brian is like 1 foot and 2 inches taller than I am, and make sure that it was comfortable. And I found that for $55. So have your shoes before your dress fitting. I bought my veil on Amazon. Yes, you heard that right. It cost $29.99. I knew that I wanted a cathedral length veil that was just plain because I have a ton of detail on the back of my dress that I didn't want covered up by any details on a veil. Plus, my veil is only being worn for the ceremony. So I didn't want to spend $300 to $500 on a veil that came from the place where I got my wedding dress when I'm going to take it off after the 20-minute ceremony and the pictures. This veil is beautiful. It feels so soft and luxurious. I'll be sure to include a link to it below in case you're interested. It comes in pure white and also light ivory. I got mine in the light ivory because, in case you haven't tried on a wedding dress recently, most stores sell very few pure white dresses these days because they tend to come off as blue or blue toned in photos. I'm gonna run it up to the dress shop just to compare it to my dress and make certain that it looks okay and that it doesn't look too yellow, but I think it's gonna be all right. But anyway, hot tip. Don't spend a lot of money on your veil, especially if you don't want it super detailed, because if you have a long cathedral length veil like I'm gonna have, you're not gonna wear that at the reception. Like, people are just gonna step all over it and it's gonna like rip your head back. There's my little tip, my money saving tip for you there. For the last half of this video, I want to touch on the less concrete items that I've learned. And one of those is just, you have to make so many more decisions than you ever thought you would. You know, my best advice in some ways that I've cut down on the stress of all of this is I've limited my options. So don't go online and see that you have 500 different photographers to choose from. Filter it by price or filter it by proximity and give yourself like 3 or 4 people to choose between, and then let that be it. You're going to get decision paralysis if you give yourself too many options. So for instance, we only toured 2 venues before I selected which one that I wanted. At the end of the day, you can find what you need in lots of different places. Do some online research beforehand, weed things out based on price, but just limit your options because you have to make so many decisions. You cannot please everyone. And I'm gonna repeat that one more time. You cannot please everyone. This is your day, and yes, if your parents are paying for it like mine are, I definitely take their opinions into consideration with every decision that I'm making. Ultimately, they defer to me and they say, we trust you. Whatever you want. If that's fitting into the budget, 100% go for it. But that's how they parent. That's how they've been my whole life. And if your parents are a little bit different, then it may be a little bit more trying. But just know, like for instance, with the Postable link, that was wonderful for so many people coming to my wedding. But the older people on the guest list really did have an issue with it and complained about it. And for instance, our room block, it's at a hotel that has mostly king beds in the rooms and it doesn't have double beds. But with that hotel, we get free transportation for 6 hours to and from our wedding. And that didn't suit everybody. You know, there's going to be give and take. There's going to be, you know, things that people don't agree on, but at the end of the day, it's fine. They're not going to remember those details. This is ultimately about celebrating a marriage. Do not let a hotel room bring this process down, okay? Okay. Another question I get asked a lot is, do you have a wedding planner? How do you balance everything? How are you planning this day? And my answer is no, I don't have a wedding planner. And B, like, I am capable of planning this wedding. I want this day to look a certain way, and I know that I can execute that on my own. Now, my venue does come with a day of coordinator, which I do recommend because on that day, I feel like things are gonna be a little bit hectic. And I have a good friend who was a wedding planner and coordinator, and she also says you can totally skip people for the planning part and definitely hire them for the coordination piece because you don't want to deal with other people's crap on the day of. I've planned most everything in super sprints whenever my mom comes in town because they live like 12 and a half hours away. That has actually been wonderful. It's been really stressful and really tiring on those weekends, and my mom has put up with a lot and listened to me complain and hem and haw and things, but I think that we would both agree it's really nice to knock out 20 different things on the checklist in one weekend than to pour over it every single day and be trying to work on it every single day. It's made it a little bit more enjoyable to just devote certain weekends to it. And so if you're planning your own wedding, I highly, highly recommend that, because if you can be super productive in that one weekend, you're gonna enjoy the engagement process a lot more, spend more time with your friends, spend more time with the person you're going to marry, and not worry about this 6-hour celebration. Because and that is everything. Those are my big lessons that I wanted to impart on you after 6 months of wedding planning. Again, we still have 5 months to go. I'm sure that I'll have more to share at the end of this process. And I think I want to film a video after we get married to tell you about what things mattered, what things went wrong, what things I would have done differently, or what things I really, really liked. But in the meantime, if you have any detailed questions about wedding planning that you think I may be able to answer, feel free to ask them in the comments below. If you like this video, then like it. Stick around, subscribe, join the community, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.